It's Sunday, June 16th, 2024. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody's having a great weekend, a safe weekend. Printed up a few articles this morning. As I was reading some of the news, I'm going to share this with all of you. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Just keep sharing these videos. I appreciate it so much. Let's keep waking people up. But without further ado, I want to get right into it today. This one coming from King World News. The economy is now in a full-blown collapse. Take a look. And, you know, I've been talking about this for quite a long time, and people would continually write me and say, where's the collapse? When's the collapse going to happen? And it's like, take a look. It's happening right before your very eyes. And it gives a little data here. June Consumer Confidence Index unexpectedly fell to 65.1 from 69.1, well below the estimate of 72, and now down almost 14 points over the past 3 months. The University of Michigan buying conditions for vehicles. Plans to buy a vehicle fell 15 points in April, another 7 points in May, and 12 points in June. And that number is now at 51. That is the lowest since November of 2022. I don't know about you. I don't know what's happening in your area. But I can tell you in Southern California, the car lots are filling up. I haven't seen this many cars in a couple years sitting at the car lots. When we look at the University of Michigan Index, plans to buy a house plummeted by 19 points in May, fell 1 point in June to 27, the lowest on record dating back to 1978. Why are people not planning on buying a home? They can't. They don't make enough income. They have too much debt. They can't qualify. They're losing jobs. The list goes on. And this is not a good sign. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that will say, you know, a 7%, you know, mortgage, it's very normal. Don't be afraid. You can always refinance when rates go down, but 7% is really an average rate, which it is. But this is not. We can go back to the 1970s, and there's a lot of comparisons. Oh, look what people were paying in the 1970s, but home prices to the income ratio is drastically higher today. Remember, you could buy a house for $40,000 in the 1970s, maybe even less. In the 1980s, you could buy a house for $60,000. Now today, what's the average price? 420,000. Out here now, I think the average home is over $700,000. So I don't know how people are doing it. I think it's completely unsustainable. There's too many people that are paying 40 to 50% of their incomes to a mortgage payment, and they are one accident away from big trouble. Think about what could happen in the next year, 2 years, 5 years. You have a 30-year mortgage. Think about what could happen. You could lose a job. A spouse could lose a job. You need at least minimal two incomes now to afford a home. And now so many homeowners have multiple people living in their homes. They have half their relatives now living in the home to pay the mortgage. We look at the index of major appliances. Intentions to buy dropped 7 points, and they've dropped 28 points in the past 2 months. So that shows us or tells us that people don't have the money. People aren't buying homes. They're not upgrading their homes and doing remodels, so they're not buying high-end appliances. The article made a good point here. It says, while Wall Street obsesses about the inflation rate of change, many consumers could care less and are struggling with the cumulative rise relative to their wage growth. The middle class is now just hitting a brick wall. And I don't know what the solution is. The economy is in very, very big trouble. My biggest fear now are the job losses that are coming with more inflation. So we're going to watch how this plays out, but be ready. You know, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because it's going to be a very, very bumpy ride. And I think the deeper we get into the summer, the bumpier it is going to get. I can't even imagine what this is going to look like by the end of summer, what it looks like in the fall. We have a huge election coming. What role does that play? I mean, I cannot read into the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but I see very, very uncertain times ahead, and things could get very chaotic very, very quickly, and I hope that all of you are preparing for this. King World News. This is how bad things have become in the U.S. 65% of U.S. adults who qualify as middle class say that they are struggling financially and expect to do so for the rest of their lives. That is an incredible statement right there, that 65% of U.S. adults believe that they're going to struggle for the rest of their lives. And they're probably right. When you look at what's happening to Social Security, the potential of seeing something very catastrophic happening to the pension system, and people now that I see, working in leisure and hospitality well into their 80s, not because they want to, they have to. They can't afford the gas prices. Utilities are absolutely crushing people. If you're on a fixed income and you get out here, it's 105 today. It's cooled down. Yesterday it was 115. You're running your air conditioning 24 hours a day. I mean, you're going to get a $400, $500, $700, depending on the size of your house, utility bill. So if you're on a fixed income, how are you doing this? You're 82 years old, you're going back to work. Gas is, almost $5 a gallon. The price of food, everything is going up, and nobody sees anything improving. And of course, we've already been warned that by 2033, you're going to see a $325 haircut with Social Security. They're already telling you they're going to cut Social Security. Could you imagine what prices of food, gas, utilities, and housing are going to be by 2033? Does anybody out there really believe that they're going to get inflation back down to 2% anytime soon? The middle class is considered a household making $60,000. That is a household making $60,000, a family of four. 50% of the U.S. does not have $500 saved up. We've talked about this multiple times, and I just think about half this country not having $500 saved up. An emergency today is probably going to cost you more than $500. You're lucky if you can repair a flat tire now, replace a flat tire for $500. This is what really concerns me, because knowing what we're heading into, at least having an idea, and then looking at this data that half this country doesn't have $500 saved up. What happens when we really begin to see serious pain in this country and people have no savings? 20% said they had $10,000 or less. 28% said they had no savings at all. 28%. 16% have to decide what bills they're going to pay. So they're going to not pay that bill to pay this bill. They're not going to pay this bill so they can pay that bill. Maybe they don't pay a utility bill so they can make the rent bill. I mean, this is where we're living. This is very, very scary, because people are not prepared for what is coming. And I don't think we're very far away from something very, very catastrophic happening here in America. And I do believe it's going to be financial. And when people cannot feed themselves, cannot feed their families, think about how ugly, how chaotic this can get. And we've said time and time again, people will be knocking at your door, and it's already happening right now. I read the comments. People write me all the time, and they're telling me that they have old friends calling them up for money, old girlfriends calling them up for money, relatives asking for money. It just goes on and on and on. So people, if they're not knocking at your door, they're calling you up on the phone, asking you for help, asking you for money. The desperation is already beginning to sink in. And somebody said in the comments yesterday, people are out and about, they're driving around, they're going to the restaurants, everything seems fine. It seems fine until it doesn't. I took a drive the other evening down at El Paseo, the Rodeo Drive of the desert, and the restaurants look completely dead to me. Yes, it's warm out, the season's over, but it's dead. It is completely dead. And a lot of people are writing saying that a lot of the restaurants in their area are dead. There are restaurants that are doing okay, but there's a lot of other restaurants that are not. People now are kind of picking and choosing because they're not going out to eat 3 days a week. Now maybe it's 1 day a week. So, and think about how many restaurants since the health crisis, how many tens of thousands at least of restaurants we've lost. So there's less restaurants, there's less choices out there. And yet more restaurants are closing because people don't have the discretionary spending that they once did. 18% polled said that they would be unable to take care of an emergency greater than $100. 18% in this poll said that they would be unable to take care of an emergency greater than $100. 14% said they would have to borrow to cover an emergency between $100 and $500. I thought that this was the world superpower, the United States of America, the wealthiest nation on planet Earth. Half the country doesn't have $500 saved up. 18% said they wouldn't even be able to come up with $100. This should concern every one of you. And if you're one of these people, you need to do something about this really, really quick. We have a country that is completely unprepared for what is coming. We are going to see a financial disaster, one that's going to go down in the history books. This will be epic. It's going to go down in the history books. It is going to torment millions of people. And from what I'm reading right now, millions of people right now are not ready for what is about to happen. I was reading some data last night. Somebody had made a comment regarding credit cards, and that credit cards are no big deal. It's normal. There's no problem with credit cards. And I had to debate a little bit in the comments. I forgot what it was all about, but $1.13 trillion in credit card debt. And I looked this up last night. There are 827 million credit cards in circulation in the United States. So, you want to know how people are taking those weekend trips? You want to know how people are going to Disneyland? You want to know how people are going out to eat and drink? 827 million credit cards. The average American has 4 credit cards. 49%, nearly 50% of this country is carrying a balance on their credit cards at an average rate of 23%. The average credit card per household is nearly $8,000 at 23%, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you're using these things to go to Disneyland, if you're using these things to go to the bars, to go to dinner, to take a weekend trip, you are really going to pay a huge price here. Somebody said, well, they'll just file bankruptcy, then they'll get, a couple new credit cards within months. Good luck with that. Your credit's going to be absolutely destroyed at the worst possible time. And if you're the type of person that just thinks they're going to survive on credit cards, you're going to be a casualty of this economic collapse. I mean, I think it's almost entertaining, a bit ignorant, when people just sit there and go, I'll file bankruptcy and get 2 more credit cards, within the next 3 months. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck in your survival of the Greatest Depression 2.0 that's coming. Because if you're dependent on the system, if you're dependent on plastic credit cards to survive, you've already lost. You've already lost. Fox News, House passes defense bill automatically registering men 18 to 26 for the draft. This passed the House Armed Services Committee version of the NDAA in May, 57-1 on the vote. Passed the House 217 to 199. It's going to go to the Senate. I don't think it gets past that, but they cannot wait to draft people. They want you automatically registered and ready to go, because in case we have to go to Ukraine or Taiwan or to the Middle East, they need bodies to go. How do you feel about this? Especially, I'm going to ask two different types of people. If you're a parent, how would you feel watching your kid or kids have to go to Eastern Europe, Middle East, or Taiwan? Would you support this? I love America. I would die for this country. But that doesn't mean I feel like I should be going 5,000 miles away or 10,000 miles away to fight somebody else's fight. I don't agree with that. I think these wars are horrible. If you watch my show, I believe in peace, but I believe in extreme violence. If anything happens here in America, that we defend ourselves. But going across the world to fight other countries' fights, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I thought our forefathers told us not to get entangled in these foreign affairs. And here we are. We are so entangled in these affairs across the world. It's repulsive. But as a parent, how would you feel if your kid got drafted into one of these wars? I would not be comfortable with it at all, because I don't believe in what this is all about. And I just hope all this diffuses. I hope we see peace here shortly. But I'm a realist. I don't think that's going to happen. I think things are going to escalate. And don't be surprised if your kid or kids get drafted into one of these wars. Now, also, there was an article I was reading. I don't know if you can validate this. I don't know how true this is. Breaking 2025 NDAA authorizes mandatory military draft of women across America as Pentagon pursues global nuclear war with both Russia and China at the same time. I don't know if there's any truth to this. Let me know what you think about that. But would it surprise you that they would want to draft women on top of this? Now, going back, I asked the parents, what if you're one of these young men, 18 to 26, or a woman? How would you feel right now being drafted and sent over into a war in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, and quite possibly Taiwan? How would you feel? How do you feel about this? I think that if I was 18 to 26, I would be getting a little bit nervous right now. Not to say that anything's going to happen anytime soon, but you never know what you're going to wake up to tomorrow. And we continue to really want to promote more war, and as we continue to try to weaponize a weakening dollar, as we're losing control. This is what scares me. As we're losing control, especially of our world reserve status and the petrodollar, it would not shock me if we got involved in a couple of these wars, and before you know it, we're in a world war. I pray to God that doesn't happen. But as a young person, how do you feel about all this? What would you do? I don't even know how prepared we are. We've burned through half of our strategic petroleum reserves. Literally half of our young population right now could not even get into the military because they're just not in the physical shape to do so. But we're just not prepared for this. But it's very, very possible. And looking now that they're looking at women to be drafted, anything's possible now, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts on that. I will close with this last article. 20% of California lives in poverty. What's going on? It's amazing. We have the highest number of billionaires here, and we have some ultra-rich people from the coast, Beverly Hills, LA, to the San Francisco area, and all the tech up there. There's a ton of money out here, but we have 30% of the nation's homeless population right here in California. $68 billion deficit we are running now. Just a few years ago, we had a surplus. Now we have a $68 billion deficit. For some reason, the $25 billion that was supposed to go to the homeless problem in Los Angeles, well, that money has disappeared. They cannot find it. Isn't it amazing that they can, if they want to go after somebody, they can find you down to $100, $1,000, $100,000, $1 million, and they can find exactly what that money was for. But they cannot find where the $25 billion went that Los Angeles was given over the past 5 years. Nobody knows where it went. There's no accountability. Unbelievable. A state that says it cares so much about the environment here. And then I look at how people are living in tents, going to the bathroom on sidewalks and streets, eating God knows what out of a trash can. I see the trash on the side of our freeways. I see very, very dirty air. I see graffiti everywhere. I see infrastructure crumbling. I see people literally crumbling. People are really, really getting worried out here. You can see it in their faces. But everything is just falling apart. We have more crime than we know what to do with out here. People are losing businesses. And again, our cities look like war zones and dumps. And yet California is always talking and bragging about how much they care about the environment. when most of the environment now in California just looks like garbage, from the roads to the cities to our towns, the infrastructure, the homeless, all of it is just crumbling. And yet they brag about in this state, this one's beautiful, beautiful state, how much they care. Really, really sad. But I bring this up because it's coming to your state very, very soon if it hasn't already started. Being somebody that grew up in Chicago, well, it's the same thing over there. Beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago, the beautiful state of Illinois, now a war zone, garbage, infrastructure crumbling, people, just working paycheck to paycheck, struggling. And of course, the municipalities, the cities, the state completely broke. So what's happening here is happening all over America. Very, very few states that it is not happening in right now. But be careful about what is happening in your states. Make sure that you're involved, that you're doing something, that you're voting, not to allow what's happening in California to happen where you live. Because if you don't get involved, if you don't vote, if you don't voice an opinion, if you're not waking people up, if you're not doing something, if you're not in the fight, what's happening here is going to happen where you live too. I'm going to leave it there today. God bless every one of you. Thanks for tuning in. Again, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and really, I really stress, make sure you're sharing these videos all over your social media. Make sure you're preparing every which way. You cannot be one-dimensional. Make sure, most of all, you're walking close to God. Somebody said walking close to God is going to do anything. Well, you're completely wrong, because right now, if we don't have some sort of divine intervention with what's happening, we're going to be in very, very big trouble here in America. The only way now that this country is saved is going to be by the man himself. And if this country does not begin to repent and ask for direction and walk close to God, we're going to lose the greatest country on planet Earth. This is spiritual warfare, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to believe it or not. So you can sit there and go, oh, walking close to God isn't going to do anything. It's the only thing now that is going to save this country, because it is getting absolutely out of hand what is going on. We're going to need a miracle now to save this country. And I believe in miracles, I do. So thank God tonight for everything you have, for your family, friends, that you're eating, that if you have a job. Thank God for everything you have, your health, and stay healthy. Do everything you can to stay healthy. And pray for direction and strength. God bless. Stay safe. Talk to all of you soon.